This is the all-new GK-200 from Team Saxo Racing, an unassembled, almost ready to run 1/8 scale RC go-kart. It might also be one of the most beginner-friendly RC kits on the market, but before we go too far into that, let's get this car up to the studio, unbox this thing, and show you what all comes inside. And as you can see, everything's packed nice and neatly inside of the box. You get a brushless combo, a Power Star Metal Gear Servo, the body and driver figure already pre-painted, and even the tires and wheels pre-mounted. And the GK-200 Pro version even comes with a Gens Ace 1300 mAh 30C 2S LiPo battery. As for the manual, you'll have to scan the QR codes at the top of the box. So the only other items you're going to need to bring to the party are a radio and receiver and some tools. And even that ask is pretty simple. The manual calls for a 2 and 1.5mm hex bit drivers, pliers and scissors, and two things it doesn't call for but you're definitely going to want to grab are a 5.5 and 7mm socket or driver. So that brings me back to my claim of this kit being one of the most beginner-friendly options on the market, and that's due to a number of reasons we kind of just explained. For one, the body is made of an ABS material and already comes pre-colored. You're not gonna have to spend extra money or time with paint or cutting out the body yourself. Number two, pre-glued tires and wheels. Pretty self-explanatory there, but for a lot of beginners and even some intermediate and advanced users, this is one of the most frustrating parts of building an RC or racing them. Team Saxo takes care of it for you, so you're good to go right out of the box. Number three, no soldering. The electronics are plug and play right out of the box, with connectors already soldered up to the motor and ESC. Number four, this go-kart is based off an on-road racing chassis. There's no complicated suspension setups. You're not gonna have to build any shocks at all as it operates off a pod spring style rear suspension.
What? What the? Oh, hell no! That's hell no!
And there's no gearbox build to worry about either, as this is essentially a direct drive setup. In fact, if I wasn't filming this build process, I could probably knock out this entire car in about an hour with the help of my electric screwdriver. So enough yapping, let's whip out the Mouska tools and get to assembling this 8-scale brushless go-kart that is the GK-200. Alright, we're starting our journey with bag A. This is going to be like the front spindle and suspension setup for this car, including the carbon fiber arms. If you are a noob, this bag probably looks pretty terrifying, but no need to fear, it's all very simple and should go together with zero issues. So step one is going to start you off with the spindles. This is a complete assembly that we're about to put together. Really easy the way this actually connects. You can see the axle rod can only go in there one way, so you just slide that right in, and that's going to be held in with the smaller of the two screws. Alright, once you got that snug, go ahead and slide in your little hinge pin shaft. It may actually be a good idea to grease this little pin also that's sliding up in there. It's not required, but it'll definitely help with a smoother steering setup. Just for the heck of it, I got some old shock O-ring grease laying around. I'm just gonna rub it just a dab on there. All right, we're gonna add our spring on there. Add the little collar, make sure the smaller portion's facing down. Pull that down just a little bit, try to hold on to it with your fingernail. Now for the most evil part of this entire setup, we gotta get one of these itty bitty E-clips on there. Thankfully this spring does not have a ton of pressure, so it should get started on there fairly easily, and then you can use a pair of pliers or a screwdriver just to press it on all the way. And that is basically your front shock. That's how it's going to work on there. Let the front tire and arm move up and down just a little bit from that spring action. Alright, and then for the last part of this, throw on a spacer and just snug down the little ball end and we are good to go. Now we're going to do another one in the opposite direction for the other spindle and we'll move on to the next step. Now for my least favorite part of any RC build, turnbuckles. Thankfully there's only two on this car, so it should go fairly quick. Now you are going to need a ruler, tape measure, or caliper in order to make sure you got 22mm of distance between the rod ends when you screw them on. Also, it's definitely going to help if you grab something to lube up the turnbuckle as you're trying to spin the rod end on. You could use grease, oil, even chapstick will work for this. Perfect, one down, one to go. Up next, we just gotta pop these into the carbon fiber arms and put the nut on. All right, next up we get to bust out this beauty. Oh, so gorgeous. Absolutely love carbon fiber. One thing to know as you're screwing it in there, it does call for a 2 and 3 millimeter shim in the front and just a 3 millimeter shim in the rear to give you a little bit of angle to your steering arm. Just make sure you get the right spacers in there and repeat the step on the other side. Moving on to bag B, it is servo time, baby. Time to put some steering into this car. They do give you a bunch of different servo horns. We're just gonna stick with the recommended one for this car. So for this step, you are going to need a Phillips bit for these little itty bitty tiny Phillips screws that are gonna connect the servo horn to the servo and the actual servo mount itself. And as we're mounting up this servo, one thing to note, if you are using an electric driver, be very careful with carbon fiber. It's so easy to crack if you over torque it. Once you feel it snug, make sure you just do the rest by hand, just to be safe. We got steering. All right, up next we're digging into bag C. This is going to have the actual go-kart seat that the driver figure is gonna sit in, which mounts on top of the battery brace we gotta put in the car, and the rear pod for our rear suspension. Might be a little easier if you put this in before the seat. Alright, so up next, we gotta actually stick the battery inside of the battery compartment. And as you can see, it is a very snug fit. I'm trying not to hurt these wires up there. There we go. Cool part is there is this little overhang right here that the balance port tucks right into nice and neat, so that's a super nice touch. And then these leads just stick out right here so you can charge it in the car if you want. Not recommended. But if you need to, easy charge right there. This is gonna sit down on the chassis. There's a little spacer for the front two holes. The rear pod is gonna mount up under the car. You got a little washer right there that's gonna go up, and then we're gonna mount this here, and that's gonna give us our rear suspension. We'll get this little gasket slash washer up in there. In that center hole. Get this one started. Now it's time for everybody's favorite. In bag D, you had a carbon fiber brace, aluminum motor mounts, your rear axle mounts, pinion gear, and a solid steel rear weight that's gonna go on the very back of this car to help give your go-kart traction. Let's get these motor mounts installed. Be sure the one with the extra holes on top goes on this left side over here. I don't know why I cannot get Lady Gaga's telephone out of my head right now. Such a catchy beat on that song. Looks like when you're doing these little retainers, you want to make sure the recessed portion's facing out so you can put your bearings in there. Little carbon fiber link is going to go over the back. Oddly enough, it is the same size screws front and back. Oh, new driver unlocked. We got to step this up to 2.5. New hex driver unlocked that we did not warn you about in the beginning. And I messed up. Thankfully, I caught myself before I got too far, but I did mess up. You need to put shims underneath those little axle holders right there. The shaft actually sits over top of the motor mount, and it's held in with two screws right in there. So there is the motor mount it on there. Like I said, it's really unique. The shaft, I mean, there's maybe like 2 or 3 millimeters at most in between the motor shaft and that mount. We'll call that pinion good for now, but we're probably gonna have to adjust it when we put the rear axle in. Speaking of the rear end, we're moving on to bag E, which has aluminum left and right hubs, aluminum rear axle, some plastic bits, and then all your hardware and bearings. All right, so it's showing the axle, one of them, and a bearing. Alright, rear axle is in. The bearings are a very, very tight fit. It did require a little bit of tough love to get that on there properly. Now, in the instructions, one thing to keep mindful of, it does say in the locking nut to tighten all the way down and back a quarter turn off. I'm guessing what they mean by that is these screws right here in the actual hex hubs. So that's exactly what I did. I snugged them all the way down by hand and then went through and just gently backed them off a quarter turn. Now is also going to be a great time to properly adjust your mesh. Messed up a little bit here on this back one. You need to use the longer screw that came in the package because it is actually going to go up into this piece here. Okay, we got the ESC plate mounted in there, and it is easier to go ahead and put that shorter screw on the inside first to hold it in place, and then put that longer one up through the Nerf bar. Alright, next up we got wheels and tires. Like we mentioned earlier in this video, they are pre-mounted foam tires. It's going to be hex in the rear, obviously, and then bearing up front. These tires are so freaking soft. Feels like you're going to have a ton of grip no matter where you're going to be running it. I've got to put a washer on there. Bearing on the inside. Bearing on the outside. It's going to be 5.5 for the front and then 7 for the rear. We are officially rolling now. And made a rookie mistake right there. The front wheels being bearing, you are going to have to back them off just slightly once you get them all the way tight. That way they roll smooth. Yeah, somewhere right around there, maybe even just a hair more. Check for play. Now we're entering the home stretch and it's time to add on our body. Now for the Nerf bars. This thing's looking so good with the body on. Now we got the driver figure. He does have holes in his feet that are going to connect to the foot pegs down there. And he also does have a little Velcro strap seat belt that's going to wrap around his waist and the seat to keep him planted in there in case of any crashes. Alright guys, there it is with the driver figure, but we're not done yet. It's time to add on some stickers, and I'll show you guys the end result. And here it is all put together, the Team Saxo Racing GK-200 1/8 scale brushless RC go-kart. I really like the black color on here too, with the whole carbon fiber chassis plate, carbon fiber rear brace in the back. You can see the aluminum mounts back here. It's got just the right amount of bling bling, and I can't wait to get it outside and see how it looks under the sunlight. Now, if black isn't your style, this is also available in a red and blue color scheme as well. Now, a couple things I have noticed that the car is complete. The driver figure, it is a little bit of a pain to try to keep his feet on the pegs on the bottom, so you may want to just add a touch of glue or maybe even just wrap a rubber band or something else around him if you're really wanting to keep his feet there. But his little ankles and legs are tall enough so it does not affect the steering back and forth, so there should not be any rubbing or binding there. Now, as expected, like a pan car, there's not a ton of front suspension. There is a little bit, but it's not much. But what did actually surprise me is in the rear end, there is quite a bit of suspension and flex in here. So the car should put down power fairly easily and grip up well on most surfaces. That being said, this is a pan car inspired build. So the stock ride height isn't much, maybe a couple millimeters at most. So you just gotta be careful and make sure you're running it on a somewhat smooth concrete asphalt carpet surface. Maybe even some high bite clay ovals, you might actually be able to get away with this, especially if you raise the ride height just a little bit more. Now, as far as extras go, when you get done building the kit, you should obviously have some extra stickers left over unless you just sticker bomb the dang thing. You're gonna have a manual for the brushless system, and one thing I did not mention earlier in this video that is pretty cool, the ESC and motor are capable of handling 3S. So the Pro version comes with a 2S LiPo stock, but if you want to up the power, you can easily run 3S in this as well. I did have a few shims left over from the actual bags in the kit build along with the servo horns, and then Saxo does actually provide a oops bag, if you will, that just has like basically 1 or 2 of every piece of hardware on the car. So you do have some extra hardware if you lose anything while you're building the kit. Now, this thing is ready to rip, but you're gonna have to wait for another video before you can see it in action. This video is just a more detailed overview and build. And at this point, you're ready to go outside and hit the track. The only thing you need to do is just sticky tape in your receiver, plug it in, and get your remote bound up to it. So, final build thoughts. Overall, the build went really smooth start to finish. Like I said in the beginning of this video, if I didn't have to film it, I could probably knock this out in about an hour. I did goof up on a couple spots and just quickly unscrewed it, put the right part in, like the washers on the rear axle mounts in the back of the car. The fit and finish of everything was really nice though, just a couple little oddball spots. The rear axle, it does roll smooth, everything's free there, but boy was it tight getting it through the bearings and the mounts. Little bit of oil to help lube it up and put it through, but it is a very snug fit. Actually had to tap it in a little bit with the screwdriver here. Just try to get it all the way in. Just be very, very careful. You do not want to bend that. Now, the only real point of concern I had is actually one of the first steps we did on the car, and that's up front with these carbon fiber arms. But it's not with the arms itself, it's with the hardware. The nuts holding these onto the chassis, in my opinion, do not have enough threads on the actual screws coming up from the bottom, especially in the front where there is that double spacer. The nut, I feel, needs to be thinner or a longer screw to actually go up all the way in. If you look close, there's actually only a few threads holding that nut onto the screw, so I probably will have to take those front 2 off and replace them with a thinner nut. Now, one other thing which is completely my fault, I screwed it up, it's not Team Saxo's fault. On that left side front steering spindle, if you look close, you can actually tell it is cracked and broken where the rod end goes down through. Again, my fault. I was too busy paying attention to the camera. I had my electric screwdriver going in one hand and the ball stud in the other. I'm looking at the camera and just smash it down. I had way too much torque going on that thing, so I own it. That's my fault. And I know a few people are going to be saying this is not an 8th scale vehicle, but it is. It's 8th scale true to a actual full-size racing go-kart. So its actual scale in the RC world is closer to like a 18th to a 12th scale. Let's show you some other vehicles side by side for comparison. So here's the OG Low-C Mini Sprint, one of the all-time greatest RC cars ever made. I don't care what you say, this thing was ahead of its time. So Low-C calls this an 18th scale, it's closer to a 12th scale. And as you can see, pretty much identical wheelbases. This one's just a little bit shorter. And then the overall length and width are really close. Here we got the Luis LRX 10 scale rally car. And yeah, it swallows this thing whole. Quite a big difference right there. Axial SCX24. Obviously, pan car is gonna beat that, a little bit bigger there. So overall, not very big, but it is big enough to have fun indoors and outdoors. This would be great on a indoor 12th scale pan car track, run what you brung class or create a class of its own. Stock out of the box, you do get a little bit of adjustment, make a really good spec class. Not that you need any more of them, but if you're looking to switch it up, do something different, this could be a ton of fun. There's not a ton of road courses here in the Northeast anymore for on-road RC racing. I think the closest one to me is CRC, so I'm gonna have to keep an eye open, see if we can get up there on an open practice day. It's a couple hours away, almost like 3, I think, so a little bit of a hike up there, but I definitely want to try to get this some track time. Other than that, I think the nearest like on-road asphalt track is like 5 or 6 hours away, so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get you guys any footage of that, but we are going to try to find at least some smooth concrete and asphalt surfaces to really break this in, run it on, have some fun, and test it on 2 and 3S in an upcoming video. So if you made it this far into the video, thank you for sticking around and checking out the Team Saxo GK-200. If you're interested in picking one up for yourself, or need any spare parts, links will be down in the description below, or you can head directly over to our website at www.naughtyboys.com. And remember, keep it naughty.